Hello and welcome to the From the Finney podcast with me, Jake.
Me, Dan.
And me, Ryan.
In this week's episode, we'll look back at the Derby County game, our form following international breaks, and our away form on the whole this season, because it's been pretty shoddy. So yeah, enjoy. Howdy, lads. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us and making your pod debut.
Calling me?
No, thank you for coming on. It's much appreciated with all these work commitments. Another international break come and gone, and obviously another defeat has come with it.
Yeah.
But other than that, have you boys had a good few weeks?
Yeah, it's been all right. The international break, boring again.
Always is, isn't it?
Yeah. They're horrible, those things. But, I mean, I prefer them to what usually follows immediately after.
Yeah, especially recently. But not even recently. It's been going on for bloody yonks now. How's things been with you, Ryan?
Yeah, a good couple of weeks, and got myself busy to fill the void of the international break, if you like.
Yeah, so you got yourself a little week's intern at North End as well, haven't you?
In February, just a week in the press office, which looking forward to.
Happy days. Sounds good. First of all, before we get into the actual pod, today, Tuesday, the 26th of November, is our 6-month birthday. Not from the Finney, but from the Finney podcast. So it's 6 months since me, Dan and Ollie had a Skype conversation that we thought was just going to be a practice podcast, and then we just thought, do you know what, sack it.
Because it actually turned out being all right, didn't it?
We'll just put it out, and that turned out to be episode 1. 6 months old today, the podcast, and over the weekend we hit 10,000 plays as well, so cheers for that. I think on Friday night we also hit 1,000 followers on Twitter in less than 10 months, which
milestones left and right.
Yeah, they're flying in. So chuffed with that. So thank you, listener, for all your support. And if you're not following us on Twitter, give us a follow. Another bit of housekeeping, if you will. We're approaching the end of the month, so that means that we'll be getting up to recording the month review pod. So if you want to come on and join me and Dan and Ollie, or me and Dan, or me and Ollie, or me and whoever, depending on who is or isn't available, then just email us on fromthefinney@gmail.com, or you can slide into our DMs on social media and we'll arrange something. And finally, we made a passing comment in the last pod about looking for a sponsor. That is actually something that we're looking for. So if you'd maybe be interested in sponsoring the From the Finney podcast, or you know someone who might be, again, get in touch on social media or just email us fromthefinney@gmail.com. And we can sort something out. We'll let you know some more of the stats and how many people you'll be exposed to and all that sort of stuff. So, now that we've done that, it's another defeat after an international break.
A bit of a slide down in tone, wasn't it?
Yeah, quite an abrupt one, really. It's not ideal, but I think to try and maybe bring it back up a little bit, we do always seem to react after we've lost. Sorry, this season we've always seemed to react after we've lost the game. But yeah, two wins in 11 post international break games isn't really much of a record to shout about.
No, we last season we beat Blackburn after the international break. This season Brentford, but other than that, it's been pretty dire for the last 3 or 4 seasons.
2 in 11, I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see you've got in your notes, Dan, that obviously Pride Park's been
It's a shocking ground for us to go to. I think the last time we won there was 2008.
Yeah, was it in the FA Cup?
Yeah, that was when Carl Hawley scored twice out of nowhere.
Simon Whaley and Mel's got the other one. Or
Yeah,
the other two. Sorry.
Was it a pen Mel scored?
I think Mel's scored a pen, yeah.
Yeah. God, why do I remember that? It was more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. Scary.
Early on in Alan Irvin's reign, I would have thought.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It was in that really sharp red away kit that we had for a while, which was really nice.
No, it was
I
horrible.
still got that.
Didn't
I
like
bought
it.
it.
Red with gold trim. Just,
Yeah.
nah, not for me. Yeah, I mean, I've not managed to watch the game back or any highlights for that matter, so I don't really know how well we played or not, but by all accounts, first half, we weren't that great, and second half, we improved slightly.
Mhm. I think, without wanting to sound like I was too concerned about the game, I think Derby had it won at half time, really. Which for a 1-0 is rare, even for us if we're being at our most negative of like, oh, North End can't get back into a game.
Yeah.
If we go behind. But it just seemed like one of those games where we never got going and it never sort of felt like we were going to.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Probably a bit similar to the Reading one, to be honest.
Mm.
By all accounts, the Reading game was just seemed to be two sides that were happy settling for a 0-0, and then obviously
And Declan Rudd thought, I can't be having that.
threw one into the back of the net.
Yeah.
I did think before kick-off though that Derby were in a bit of a false position, like given the players they've got.
Yeah.
They should probably be a bit closer to sort of where we are in the league.
Yeah. The one thing I say about that is in the Championship, it's not even just this season, but this season in particular, it's very difficult to say who should be where
Yeah.
at any given time.
We're a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I'd been looking at Derby's home form, and that had been decent enough. But they've probably been, they've been better away than we have, but not by a great deal, I'd say.
And they were saying on commentary that I think they've conceded 6 in the last 8 home games.
Yeah.
I think the top 5 in the sort of home league table.
Haven't we only scored 6 in our last 8 away games as well?
Yeah. Exact mirror.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? But yeah, just one of them, I think.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's done now. We move on and focus on the next game as much as you can do. And like I said in the past, we've bounced back from. Well, there was the Millwall defeat, the 3-2 at Swansea. That was what I was trying to think of. Then the Reading game, and now this. And I think you could safely say that all 3 of the prior defeats we've bounced back from in the next run of games.
Yeah, especially Swansea. We went on a.
Yeah, I think it was like 8 or 9 unbeaten, wasn't it?
It was our best run.
Something like that.
So yeah, I'd like to think that with where we are in the league, obviously we dropped down again to 3rd now. But I'd like to think that with where we are in the league, we've shown that we're more than capable of bouncing back, despite a tough run of fixtures coming up. But yeah, fingers crossed.
It was a bit of a kick in the teeth when both Leeds and West Brom hit pretty late winners on Saturday as well. That was a bit of a gut punch, but I
suppose that's the thing, isn't it? If you're going to get promoted, you do score a lot of late goals. Look at Liverpool in the Prem.
Yeah,
just keeping it up all the way till the end.
Yeah.
Silver lining would be that Swansea lost at home to Millwall, which kept us in and around the top 3 rather than falling down the playoffs a little bit more.
It's funny though how I've seen, I think mainly on the forum, really, social media, shockingly at the moment seems relatively positive still. But yeah, I think mainly on the forum, it's been quite. Well, there's been a little bit of negativity starting to creep back in just after one defeat, and
I think you'll always get that though.
Yeah, you will always get that. But looking at the table, we're still 2 points clear of 4th and 5th, and 6th. Sorry, and 7th.
And we're 18 points clear of where our budget says we should be. So or places,
Yeah.
not points.
Yeah.
But so.
I think you've got to think as well, though, that regardless of where they are in the league, Derby was always going to be a difficult game.
Yeah, of course.
Say with the players they've got.
Yeah,
And
it's a horrible
if we'd have won, it would have been saying what a fantastic result it was.
Yeah, it's also one of those places. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm paying too much lip service to Derby, but it's one of those quote unquote big clubs with a big stadium that we tend to get a little bit. Oh, I don't know how to put it. We seem to get overawed by the occasion, even though it's not really an occasion. Do you know what I mean? It's like away games at teams like Derby and Leeds.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. And I think on the reverse of that as well, Derby fans always expect to beat us when we go there. I suppose you could say that's probably similar to us in Bristol City. We always expect to beat them because of our recent, it's probably over the last 3 or 4 seasons record against them. But yeah, it's funny because then you get like the quote unquote big teams coming to Deepdale. Leeds this season being a prime example that we'll up our game for it. Norwich last season, Cardiff the season before that, I think Huddersfield the season before that.
Villa as well last season, we had half the squad injured and really took the game to them.
So again, even though the Derby game was a poor result, I don't think there's any other way you can look at it. Really, it was a poor result considering our position in the league and our recent run. I think looking ahead, West Brom specifically on Monday, especially with the fan-led initiative that the club have now got behind with the making it a scarf night or something like that, I think it is, where they're trying to encourage people to bring scarves to the ground to hold up like we did in the mid-thousands. I think when we were in the playoffs, maybe under Alan Irvine, and just try and bring a bit more of an atmosphere. It does seem to get the team up as well. So yeah, looking ahead slightly past where we'd maybe want to in this pod. But yeah, I think the West Brom game is one to target for hopefully a positive result and a positive night for us. But yeah, I mean, moving on from Derby, well, kind of not. Yellow cards are still an issue. I think that's up to 11 in the last 3 games now. Fisher's on 9 for the season. He's almost certainly going to pick one up against Hull, especially considering he'll be up against probably Kamil Grosicki, but potentially Jared Bowen as well, depending on if they switch the wingers around, which would then rule him out of the West Brom game.
I mean, that puts him up against either 100% pace or 100% technicality, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if he was to miss the West Brom game, then that leaves us, depending on the fitness of Andrew Hughes, with potentially one fit fullback, which again just brings us back to what we've said numerous times on the pod and written pieces on the website, that injuries and suspensions are almost certainly going to come through the summer and through the season. And looking back on the summer,
we didn't really prepare to have our depth ready.
No, not at all. And I think something I read on the forum, I think it was, that if Ben Davies is out as well against Hull, you've got to have obviously one academy player, haven't you, on the bench or in your match day squad now?
Yeah.
So with Josh Earl being out,
we'd probably look at putting maybe Baxter on.
Yeah, is that some? Maybe you look at it as an opportunity for a youngster to come in and take the chance, whether he gets the opportunity to come on.
He's been using Hudson, hasn't he?
You are?
He's been using Hudson as a backup keeper when Davis has been out, so I'd imagine that he'd come in. But yeah, I'd like to see a Baxter or
the lack of fullback.
I think to sort of kill two birds with one stone, it's drawing attention back to the ridiculous decision to loan Josh Earl out.
Yeah.
Because he'd have been an academy player and cover at left back, or just at fullback in general.
I think on the face of it, I don't think it was a ridiculous decision. But when you look into it in a bit more, when you look into it in a bit more detail, and the fact that we never signed any cover.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I think at that point it then becomes a ridiculous decision. I don't think on the face of it, giving a young lad opportunity to go out and get regular game time, it was ridiculous.
I just think either way, if you're planning to loan a player out, I mean, I know we went in for fullbacks after that.
Derby, I think, was one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Max Lowe.
Yeah. Jake Bidwell turned us down, signed for Swansea.
Yeah, but I mean, really, what makes me think it's ridiculous still would be I can't see a situation where a club wouldn't make the decision to have the replacement in place before allowing that player to go out on loan.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but sometimes transfers just don't work like that, do they?
No, I suppose not.
But then Bolton might have been Bolton probably were in a position, actually, looking at the state of how they were in the summer, that they probably just needed players in as soon as possible. Because I think we knew a couple of days before, didn't we, Dan, that he was as good as gone.
Yeah.
And then it was, I think they announced their lineup and Josh Earl was in it, and then like 20 minutes later, half an hour later, the club tweeted saying like, "We're delighted to confirm that Josh Earl has gone to Bolton Wanderers on loan and starts today." It's like, I wonder why you've said that he's gone out on loan. But yeah, I think it's just completely negligent to not have a backup plan.
Yeah.
You know, like Hughes has played 5 games, I think, this season. Or made 5 appearances. I don't think he's played 5 full games. And I don't know if you've seen it, that he's touch and go for the game against Hull and possibly the game against West Brom because he broke his foot in the game against Rovers.
Yeah. Which could explain why he was limping for the whole game.
Yeah.
But it's the same on the other side with Clark, isn't it? Obviously, he'd have been penciled in as a backup right back, and he spent whatever it is 2-3 months injured. I'm not sure if he's close to full fitness yet because they've not really said much.
Neil's said, hasn't he, a couple of times that he's getting close, which could be a week or 3 weeks.
Hopefully, it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. But yeah, the yellow card thing is becoming a bit of an issue, I think. 11 in 3 games it's a lot.
Who else got booked against Derby?
I think it was Joe Rafferty.
Yeah, Rafferty.
The thing is, Fisher's discipline, we've mentioned it a few times, and it is starting to be talked about more in sort of fan circles, but not as many people seem as outraged by him as they were by Pearson maybe last year. I just wonder if Neil's going to be going as public as he did with Pearson, particularly at the end of last season, with Fisher, seeing as his comments to Pearson seem to have stuck in his mind. I mean, fingers crossed. But
I think if Fisher carries on in the vein he is, I don't see any reason why the manager shouldn't.
Yeah. I just think it'd be better sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, you know, if he picks up a yellow against Hull, he's out the West Brom game. That's 2 bans that he'll have had, and we're not even halfway through the season from picking up yellow cards.
I mean,
and if that was Pearson last season or the season before, he'd have been castigated for that on social media.
And he's had a couple for just dissent and time wasting, which, as you say, is the same as what Pearson was getting him for last season. I mean, Saturday was a bit unlucky because he sort of, there was an awkward bounce and he missed it and then pulled the guy down. But There's a couple that are just through dissent and just silly things that he doesn't really need to do.
Yeah, so you'd like to think that people online will claim that Alex Neil tells them to go out and play that way and all that sort of stuff. I don't think he does.
No, I don't either.
I think we've just got a few fiery players in Fisher, Ledson, Pearson, who that's just the way they play.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Neil utilises that in terms of the way that he sets us up, but I don't think he deliberately. I can't imagine there being conversations in the dressing room like saying go out and go through XYZ player or whatever.
Well, I mean, he's been quite open about the fact he doesn't mind the style of play. It's more that the type of bookings that he worries about are the types that Fisher and Pearson have been called out for before the dissents and kicking the ball away and generally being a twat.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, that pissed me off as well.
Yeah,
more than flying in.
I mean, he doesn't have the same sort of rep, but I mean, the booking Maguire got the other week when he just stood in front of a free kick for no reason, which is just one of them.
Yeah, I think the thing with Shawnee though is he's probably only going to pick 5 up through a season anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, coming back round to the point that it highlights in the fullback department, I don't know if you can go as far as saying Hughes is injury prone.
Not yet.
I think the broken foot thing is just unlucky.
Yeah.
But I think a few more soft tissue injuries or muscle injuries, and you couldn't really say he's...
Yeah.
Yeah, back to how it was last season almost. For him anyway.
Yeah.
We'll have to be republishing my no look at left back piece.
Yeah.
I think you sort of, when you have a longish term injury, though, you're always going to pick up sort of slight knocks, aren't you, when you're coming back? But
yeah, well,
he has had 2 or 3 which have been quite sort of spaced out. So I don't think it's a worry yet, but it could be.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is, but I think if it was to carry on through the season, obviously we're 5 or 6 games off being halfway through the season now, and he's made 5 appearances.
Yeah,
it's not great, considering he was so solid last year as well. But yeah, I think just touching on what you said there, Ryan, Alex Neil alluded to pretty much that in the at the fans forum, just saying like, when you've had players that have been out for any length of time, them coming back to full fitness, they're going to pick up little niggles along the way because they're overcompensating for the injury or whatever it may be. They're using different muscles in different ways, and obviously you're going to, as a result of that, pick up other niggles. So
same with Borden, isn't it? He's just coming back.
It's what? Sorry.
Same with Borden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Harrop as well. I think Harrop's had a couple of little tweaks that he's been out with for a few weeks here and there, that they've obviously not wanted to risk worsening. Is that even a word?
Yeah, I think so.
It is. I don't care. For the sake of rushing him back or for getting game time into him. So yeah, I think hopefully this last international break, the last one until March, has done some of the players some good as far as getting back to fitness is concerned.
Shall we call it a break, boys?
No, I don't say shall we call it a break, Dan. I say shall we call it a pod? It's not a pod yet. Right, yeah, I'll see you in part 2. I'll go and get a brew and we'll be back.
That's one.
Cool. Hello and welcome back to the From the Finney podcast. In part 2, we're going to talk about our post-international break record, our away record in general this season, and we'll also look ahead to Hull City on Wednesday evening. Yeah, it's not great, is it? After international breaks. I know we touched on it in part 1 a little bit, but to be frank, it's shit.
A little bit of a common theme, isn't it? And I've always thought that it's probably more down to sort of match sharpness more than anything else, sort of in terms of the fact that we only have 2 or maybe 3 players actually on international duty, whereas teams like Derby and sort of Swansea and those sorts have got multiple players, so they're probably sharper, if you like. And
yeah,
and I think it'd be more of a concern if we like consistently drop points after those losses, but it seemingly doesn't take too long to sort of get back up to speed after it.
Yeah, it's that bounce back ability that sort of kept us roughly roundabouts where we've been this season, is the ability to bounce back from really disappointing results. And just to build on what you said a little bit, Ryan, if sharpness and fitness in some respects are a problem for 90% of the squad, with like 2 or 3 players out on international duty, I don't know what we do during the international break other than training. I don't know if we play many bounce games, but if we don't, I know that the usual bounce games that we play are against like under 23 teams or lower league teams like Lancaster, maybe Southport.
I don't think they're quite that low. I think we
played Salford a couple of times,
didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, Salford, really?
But
that's what I mean. I never hear about them because I'm not sure where to hear about them from.
I don't think there's an official place to hear about them, if you will.
Yeah.
It's on the forum, innit? Someone from there.
I think people just post stuff on the forum, and you might see the odd bit on social media, or unless Ollie's in a chatty mood. But no, I get the point that you're making though, because I wouldn't even go as far as saying it's the first team players that need the game time.
Yeah, it's the whole squad that needs to stay sharp.
Yeah.
Even if we played like 45 minutes, like we do in pre-season when we play 111 for 45 and 45,
and switch it at half time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe something that needs asking, or maybe something that needs looking at in a bit more detail, because I think it's either a lack of sharpness, or it's either that, or I think that the players maybe struggle to get themselves back up to a level that over a period of games prior to the international break they've worked their way up and they've gotten to a level. Yeah. Then the breaks come, they've stopped, they've gone back down, they've relaxed, they've had probably 3 or 4 days off, you would imagine.
Yeah.
Come back into training. They play maybe a lower level of opponent in a bounce game. You would imagine that the feeling around training is good at the minute, so maybe they struggle to mentally get back up to that level that is required when you're competing in the championship, and we are at the minute competing in the championship. So, yeah.
I mean, a good example of that is how we came out against Huddersfield and were 2-0 up.
Inside 10 minutes or whatever it was.
Well, certainly the first half hour. I can't remember when the second goal was.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't 10 minutes. I'm thinking of completely different. Never mind. Ignore that.
It doesn't matter. Early doors, though. Early doors.
Yeah, I think it was in the first half an hour or so, wasn't it?
Yeah, because at that point, I mean, we were as far away from an international break as you can be in the first half of the season, really. And we sort of, I hate the phrase, but we'd got into a bit of a groove.
Yeah, we did. I don't think you can doubt
that.
Yeah. Well, results show that, don't they, really?
I think that's the main thing. Like you said, I think that's definitely the main thing we miss when we come back from an international break, is having kept up that run of intensity.
Yeah. No, I do think that that's one of the main causes, definitely.
Yeah, I think all the managers talk about it, don't they? Like, in this league, you've got to have momentum, and the teams that go up generally at some point in the season go on a big run.
Yeah. I just hope that, again, like you said, Dan, that bounce back ability that we've shown, pardon me, in the past, I just hope that we can bring it back again, and go on a bit of a run again, pick up some good results, and keep ourselves at the top end of the league. I think come January, if we're still in and around top 3, top 4, I think we've got, unless a bit of a gap opens up between the automatic places, I think we've got every chance to go up automatically. I've not seen anything really this season so far that makes me think otherwise, apart from our away record.
Yeah. The away record is the one thing that we really need to sort out. I mean,
it absolutely has to improve.
A bit of an understatement, but I mean, like you mentioned, when we played Leeds, we didn't look out of sorts.
No,
out of place. Hopefully, we don't look out of place when we play West Brom. I suppose that'll be a real litmus test.
Yeah, it will be.
Some ways, won't it?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But yeah, I think 6 goals in 8 away games, is it now?
Yeah, and two of those were at Swansea.
You are?
2 of them were at Swansea. I know it's
yeah, 2 of them at Swansea, and then I think the other 4 have come in 8 games.
Yeah, how many of them were penalties? Because there was Galleys at Charlton.
DJ's
at Swansea.
Forest. That was Billy Bowden.
No, I think that was it. Just the 2 away penalties, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Most of them have been at home.
Yeah.
4 of them came in those 2 games against Sheffield Wednesday and Bristol City. That was a fun fortnight.
Yeah, it was. But I think one of the main reasons for me that the away form has to improve is that it's highly unlikely that we're going to go through the whole season maintaining the record that we have at home at the moment.
Well, yeah, we're not going to be unbeaten at home. I wouldn't think.
I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, of course, but no. It's unlikely. So if we're not picking up points away from home and the home form does turn, hopefully not for the worst, touch wood. But if it does, then if we're struggling to pick up points away from home, where do the points come from? So yeah, I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. As I mentioned in the piece that I wrote for Playmaker, obviously this is before the Derby game, but over the last 46 games, we've picked up enough points we've picked up enough points that last season would have seen us finish 5th in the league above Villa. So I've no doubt that we can't continue performing to a high level, because I think in Alex Neil's time here, we've consistently done that. The only time was probably the middle of last season, or the early part of last season, when we had all the injury problems.
Yeah.
When that undoubtedly hampered us.
Yeah. I think most managers worth their salt will be the same, but I think the minimum Alex Neil expects is 100%. I know it's bringing out a bit of a cliche, but
yeah, no, I get what you mean though, because you hear things about other managers where they'll maybe allow their squad to get a little bit complacent, or allow a little bit of something, complacency to start creeping in. And I don't. Alex Neil doesn't strike me as the kind of manager to allow that.
No, that's exactly what I mean. He's very doesn't seem to be the sort of manager that you'd want to get on the wrong side of.
No, yeah, definitely not. He seems very, very full on.
Yeah,
intense.
I think part of the away form, obviously, as we've mentioned, is the fact we've only scored 6 in 8.
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
Yeah, we're not. I mean, we've had really good spells under Alex Neil away from home, but something I've noticed is that we don't seem to be the sort of team that turns up to enjoy spoiling the party, if you know what I mean, like we were under Grayson. And it's quite hard to explain, but we don't seem to be. I mean, we still shithouse to some extent, quite a large extent, really, if we're being honest. But there's just that sort of. There was that sort of atmosphere when we were the underdogs away from home. And we'd then give it large to the home crowd after we scored and that. And just now that we're sort of more than relegation fodder in the eyes of the league. We just need to find that motivation to be that little bit more ruthless away from home again.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that not Neil. I think Grayson used to make us hard to beat away from home, which is probably where you would see more of the shithousey wins, if you will. Whereas I think under Neil, I think he said it quite often in his first season in charge, when we obviously ended up finishing 7th, that I don't know if it was kind of like a veiled dig at Simon Grayson, in that he was saying, he always sets his teams up to attack. You can see from his substitutions that he will always look to try and change a game from an attacking point of view, as opposed to holding on to what we've already got. I think Grayson's style and setup was more conducive to the shithousey wins, if you will. I think for me, especially this season, our issue away from home is just that we're just not clinical enough. I think we're still creating the chances. And like I said, Neil tends to set us up to go out and attack a team and attack a game. Which maybe that could be to his undoing, you could argue, based off this season's away form. Maybe you could go about setting us up in a slightly different way.
I mean, what I say about that is, obviously I'm not a manager, but I'd be a little bit more inclined to adapt my play to more of, not fully the way Grayson used to be, because obviously that had its own very visible drawbacks.
Yeah.
But in some situations, I think we need a little bit more of that, particularly this season.
I know what you're saying.
Like an example I'd use would be probably the Reading game, where that's probably a game we'd have drawn 0-0 or maybe snuck a 1-0 win under Grayson, but we ended up losing it.
Well, to be fair, I think we were only a minute or two away from drawing it 0-0 anyway, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
I think maybe a better example of that would be the Millwall game.
Yeah.
They scored early on enough that we had, you would have thought, enough time to go and do something about it, but we just weren't up to it in the second half. And I think that a lot of that is credit to Millwall for that game and the way that they
definitely managed it well from what I've seen. Obviously, I was in New York at the time, but yeah,
I think Neil is wily enough, I think he's shown anyway this season, to understand that it's an issue. And I don't see it lasting, to be honest. I think we'll start picking up points away from home. The time of the season that we're in now, teams will start to drop off. Form will come and go.
That and generally, I think we've probably had tougher away games than we've had home games so far.
Yeah, I'd argue with that. Although I think we have played 6 of the top 10. Or prior to the international break, we'd played 6 of the current top 10 at that time. I don't know how much it's changed in obviously the one game that's been played since.
Even Reading were the first game under the new manager. They've gone on a pretty decent run. And Millwall have got a decent home record as well. I know they're sort of mid-table, but I think every game we've played has been. No game's ever easy, but in particular the games we've played, they've all been a challenge. Well, it just seems to me that whenever we go behind, quite a lot of games we've had sort of a good sort of 20-30 minute start, and then we concede, and we just find it a bit difficult to sort of bounce back from that and score ourselves. Don't really seem to have many chances either. I don't know if that's because teams obviously tend to sit back when they've scored, or that's just something we need to improve on.
I think we're definitely. I don't think anybody would argue with me saying that we're at our best when we're playing expansive football, and that's very difficult to play when a team's
definitely
sitting back onto a lead.
When they've got a lead, they're defending, or just a point that they're defending in some cases.
And the thing I noticed in Derby,
I don't think we've got the sort of. We've got. I'm not saying we've not got very good players. We have got superb players. We've said a lot on From the Finney about how strong we are as a unit, but I don't think we've got the sort of players that will unlock that defence when you're a goal down.
I think possibly apart from Gallagher, I thought Derby was a game for Gallagher. I was a bit surprised that he didn't start, and I think when he came on, we improved quite a bit. But yeah, I think he's the only one really.
Because I mean, Alan Brown, as much as we like him, he doesn't really play that killer pass.
Yeah, so obviously a few tough games coming up. We've already touched on West Brom, and before that there's the game tomorrow night against Hull, which I think was it Jonathan Woodgate that said the table lies, and I think you could maybe argue that they're in a bit of a false position.
I mean, there's quite a few teams like that, like Ryan said earlier.
They are, before I say that. Yeah, the 14th. I think you could, on the balance of their squad, you could argue that you'd think they'd be higher up. And I think if they're going to go on to do anything this season, it will depend on Bowen and Grosicki, however you say it. I don't know how you pronounce these Polish names. Apologies if anyone is listening that is from Poland. Yeah, I think any success that they're going to have this season is dependent on them staying in January, I think.
Yeah.
But I think Hull looked okay for a little bit of the first half when they came to Deepdale in the Carabao Cup, and then second
they got
half,
a penalty, didn't they?
Yeah. I think second half you could argue that they probably took us to pieces. Well, I think they did. They could probably count themselves a bit unfortunate not to have scored earlier on than they did.
They brought Eves on, didn't they? The big man, and he had a good game.
I think Kevin Stewart came on as well, didn't he? He played well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got... Who else have they got as well? Which is a stupid haircut like him. Jackson Irvine.
Yeah.
He scored twice against us last season at home. Good player. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one, especially if we have got Raff at left back and Fisher on the verge of a ban at right back. And obviously that you would imagine, barring any injury between now and then, that both Bowen and Grosicki will be starting. I think as well as Raff's done this season, I think we've mentioned it on the pod how at times he can be caught out positionally.
Yeah, he's got his drawbacks.
Yeah, he definitely does. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Having said that, though, I think it was the Leeds game when he was up against Helder Costa and didn't give him anything the whole game. So
he's definitely capable of being very, very solid. It's just
yeah.
I think it's when wingers get him on his wrong side that it becomes an issue.
Yeah,
obviously
when he's being drawn back into the middle.
Yeah,
and he just seems a little bit there.
So yeah, that's going to be one to watch. But yeah, I think if you were to say to me now, you draw against Hull on Wednesday, going into the West Brom game, I'd take that because as we mentioned at the start of the pod, our home form and the way that we seem to get ourselves up for home games this season, I would back us to get a positive result against West Brom. And to be honest, I mean, it's only the one time I've seen them. When I saw them against Stoke a few weeks ago, I think that was on a Monday night as well. Actually, they didn't look particularly great.
Well, I mean, to get where they've got, you've got to be all right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not a good team. They are.
Also, they've got 20. They've picked up 20 of their points away from home.
Really?
Yeah.
Woo. Jesus. I did not know that.
That's the thing, man. I watched that Stoke game, and I don't think they played particularly well. But
Stoke in the second half got at them, didn't they?
Yeah. If you go into somewhere like Stoke and winning as easily as they did, because Stoke didn't really offer anything, did they?
No.
That's a sign of a team that they're going to be right up there.
But yeah, having watched that Stoke game, it wasn't one that when it finished, I thought, oh, flipping out, we'll struggle playing West Brom. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I think 4 points possibly 6 out of the next 2 is more than achievable. Again, it just comes back down to that word that we mentioned at the start of the pod, our bounce back ability, and it's time now to show it, because we've got a tough run of games coming up, and obviously there's no other international break, is there, until March now, I think. So it's this time of the year when
a head of steam.
Pardon?
It's time to build up a head of steam, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely is. And on that note, what we're going to do, Dan?
We're going to call that a pod, boys.
Yes, we are. Cheers, Ryan. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, nice one.
Much appreciated. Thanks for listening to episode 23 of the From the Finney podcast. As we always say at the end of these, you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we're streamable on the majority of podcast platforms. If you want to get in touch with us about anything, or you want to come on the podcast, or you want to give us some abuse, whatever it may be, slide into our DMs on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I'll read them. Or you can email us on fromthefinney@gmail.com. And yeah, finally, thanks again to you boys.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Cheers. See you later.